Hello, in this video I'm going to code up a example enemy so that you guys can see how it's done. I've created an example project here that has it already has an empty global.cs in here. I've also linked it to I've added a reference to the, where is it here? The HD core DLL, which is the core of the game engine, which you can find in your Asteria install. And with that, that'll bring in the actual game code with all the classes that you need to descend from and everything else. So with that set, you'll also have to add a reference to XNA here. To get us started, I'm just going to go to the enemies and grab the crawler code here. Just click copy and paste. Cut it down to what we need. So go back to global CS. You can add your own files and organize your source code however you'd like. But we'll just do this real quick. Another thing I did for this project, which is pretty cool, is here in properties. For a build event, I added this copy here, and you don't need to memorize this, but this will copy the output DLL from the projects when you actually build and run it. It will copy it right to the new plugin directory, right where it needs to be. And then for debug, we can also probably set an external program straight to the Asteria executable. And if you go to the command line arguments, you can set a /autoload that will automatically load your last save game and last world file, so that you don't have to go through the menus each time. So it'll cut down on your build cycle quite dramatically. So with this guy here, we can get started. So with the ID number, you just pick a number here, and as long as it doesn't collide with anything else in the game, you're fine. So let's do 3,000. I think I'm using the 1,000s and below on mine. And for this guy, for this enemy example, I want to do a proximity mine. So it'll just blow up when you get close to it. Kind of fun little thing. So we'll just name that proximity mine. And then the width and height of this guy is going to be 20 and 20, and you must put a sprite frames per row. And so let me show you the little programmer art image that I did up here for this guy. It's just 2 frames, each 20 pixels by 20 pixels, and those are just placed into the Asteria content folders that'll get created when you run the game now. And it's just a plain PNG file with those 2 frames in it, and really couldn't be any easier for that. So there's that. Max health doesn't really matter. Proximity mines don't go anywhere, so we'll just delete the speed so it goes to 0. We don't need any collision damage. So let's make this thing invincible. So to do that, you just set the defense to double max value, and then nothing will be able to damage it. Is auto spawn controls whether or not these things will randomly drop in the overworld when auto spawn is turned off on a map, or when it's turned on. There's also some min spawn tier and max spawn tier levels that you can set to set the minimum tier, like how deep in the ground you want them to spawn, and so forth. Avoids cliff, don't need that. So the blood color is used for coloring the particles when it explodes or dies or whatnot. So we'll set that to black. In fact, there's a enumeration here. Color's black. On spawn, we'll come back to that later. Long think, that's where our main core logic will go. We'll do a get frame to show you how to use the animation system, and won't drop any loot. So we'll just cut that out. So for our main game logic here, on the long thing, which again will be called 4 times a second, we'll just check if it has a target. target is not null, so that will be true when there's a player within line of sight of this enemy. And there is a method called enemy.is target closer than, and this is in pixels, so it'll be 300 pixels. Okay. This code will get called to trigger the proximity mine so that it blows up when we get too close to it. And to do that, let's just set the let's see here, the animation for it. So set animation, and there's an animation enumeration with all these different kinds of guys here. And let's just set it to attack 1. And so that will start the animation. So this get frame returns an integer that for which particular frame to draw on each particular draw call. So this gets called for every draw, and it hands in the animation enumeration as well as an age value that says that's how many milliseconds have expired, or well, how many milliseconds this particular animation has run. So for attack 1 here, and it just returns value, it's just a simple switch statement. So we have 2 frames. So age divided by 50 will return, so we want it to increment every 50 milliseconds, and then we mod that by 2 to round it down to either to 0 or 1. So it'll toggle back and forth between these 2 frames until we blow it up in a minute here. So let's go ahead and see if we can give this a test so far. So if this was running here, we'll just hit F5 to run it. We'll get the game loaded here. I'll have to switch the resolution real quick. Proximity mine here, so let's go ahead and hold shift down and click to drop a few. So this one here is not animated, and these ones over here are. So because they will trigger, and then once we get close to those, they'll go up here. Stupid bees. These things. Great. Okay. So that's our first test. So we kind of, it's working well so far. I'll stop debugging. Alright, one over here. Okay, now to make this guy blow up, we will use the scheduler. There's a scheduler in the enemy system where you can delay an action. There's a delay method here. So in 1 second, we will hand it this little lambda expression to run. Inline little function here, and first thing we want to do is go to the enemy's map, so that actually gets the current world map of the enemy belongs to, and there's an explode method here, and it takes a position, so it'll explode the enemy's position, and that's the positions in pixels, and the intensity, let's just pick 100, that's good, and you can set the dig strength here, it defaults to 8, and set whether it drops particles or whatnot. And then let's remove the enemy. So it will disappear. So let's give it a test. It's loading. Exploding lines. So be sure to hold shift down when you're dropping these, otherwise you'll drop spawn points, which is not what you want. Stupid bees around. So that's a get out test there. Seems to be working right. We can also, when we trigger this, set a playing sound. We'll just use the exploder warning sound as well. And then one more thing to do here is let's just have it blink slowly for any other animation. So every second we'll alternate frames. And because there's an optimization in the drawing code, this get frame won't get called unless an animation has been set. So on spawn, we just need to set the enemy's animation to anything. Oops. Dot set animation to animation dot just item. And now we'll have a nice blink before it's been triggered. How you do it, so it should be pretty straightforward. Feel free to ask any questions or trouble you run into in the forums. I'll be monitoring those and I'll be there to help and make sure you guys are successful in whatever endeavors you have. So thanks for watching. Bye.